In our first lecture, we are going to explore the topic of the entrepreneur. Today, we're going to talk about the contributions of small business to the United States and the global economy, the entrepreneurial opportunity, the risks and benefits of starting your own business, and the entrepreneurial mindset and personality. I think one of the most common perceptions or misperceptions of business is that business people are greedy fat cats who get themselves rich by taking advantage of those people who patronize their businesses, thereby making everyone else poor. And misperceptions are perpetrated by popular media and people like the gentleman on the left, Bernie Madoff, the perpetrator of the largest financial fraud in U.S. history. But like I said, those are really misperceptions, as most business people are working to do better in their community and better their world. People like Dave Gilboa and Neil Blumenthal, the founders of Warby Parker. They make glasses and donate a pair to someone in need for every pair that is purchased in what's called a one-for-one business model. Kazuri is a Black-owned business that sells beads made in Kenya. As a fair trade brand, they provide meaningful wages to over 300 Kenyan artists who happen to be single mothers. Homeboy Industries is a nonprofit organization that trains and rehabilitates former gang members in a variety of fields, including entrepreneurship. One of the first readings you'll be assigned, or you've been assigned, is a very short reading from America.gov that talks a little bit about the economist Joseph Schumpeter, who viewed entrepreneurship as a force of what he called creative destruction. And the idea behind creative destruction was the entrepreneur's job was to carry out new combinations of products and services that would force or render old combinations obsolete. An example of this would be the telephone. When I started teaching, everyone had a telephone in their home. Today, several, or many years later, very few students have telephones in their homes. I'd be willing to bet that of this entire class, maybe there's one or two of you. Why? Because of the force of creative destruction that occurred with the telephone and the telephone industry, that's given us the smartphone. Instead of a telephone at home, we all have smartphones that do more than act as just a telephone. I think of my cell phone and it manages my email, it manages my grocery list, my calendar, my social life, my diet. When I teach on campus, it runs my lectures. I could go on, but that's just one example of what creative destruction does. So what you see here are two streets in very different parts of the world. One is Chinatown in New York City, and the other is in Paris, France. And you can see that they are similar in some ways, but not in other ways. One thing you'll notice in both of these photos is that there are small businesses on both of these streets. And small business is probably one of the most important economic drivers the world has ever known. Small business is so important that in 2004 and every year since, the World Bank has done a study called Doing Business. And in this Doing Business study, they measure how easy it is for someone to go in and out of business in a particular country, in every particular country. And the reason for that is that business is the single largest generator of wealth in the world. The entrepreneurial venture is the answer to bring people up out of poverty globally. So what is a small business? A small business is financed by one person or a small group of people. It has localized operations, and localized in the sense that it is small in scale, or might sell a small variety of products, or it might be small in its terms of its number of locations and the number of employees that it employs. Technically, a small business has fewer than 500 employees, but most actually have 0, which means that it's just the entrepreneur and or the entrepreneur's significant other. Small businesses are also referred to as SMEs, or small to medium-sized enterprises. So I'll use those terms interchangeably throughout the course. Some local small businesses here in Oceanside, California. Main Street Oceanside is the primary organization that promotes small business here in Oceanside. I believe it's about $50 a year to join, so it's very affordable for most small business owners. And through Main Street Oceanside, we have this Discover Downtown or Discover Oceanside publication. This is actually my husband and myself modeling for them. Well, we weren't modeling, but we were participating in a small business event. They highlight people like the Azure Sterling Silver Jewelry Company, who is a vendor at the Sunset Market. Rochelle Gordon is the owner of Bliss Tea and Treats in downtown. And this guy is Mike Confer, who's one of my former students who started a gym called MROC. And it's an obstacle course gym and training center. And Mike is a vet. So what about small business in the United States? I know when we think of business and we think and see business in the media, we think Apple, American Airlines, Ford, Facebook, massively large companies. However, most businesses in the United States are small businesses. Small business represents over 99% of all employers. They generate 47% of new private sector jobs. They pay over 40% of all private payrolls. They represent 98% of companies exporting goods and 33% of the total value of our exported goods here in the United States. They produce 16 times more patents than large companies, so they're more innovative. And 81% of all U.S. businesses have that 0 employees, meaning it's just the single person. So in brief, small businesses generate new jobs, they create new technologies, they create new products and services, and they fill important needs in the marketplace, and they create new markets. Businesses start with something called the entrepreneurial opportunity. The entrepreneurial opportunity is an innovative product or service with market potential. It has to create value by being timely, and people have to want it. The gentleman in the center photo here is somebody who is an example of an individual who recognized and exploited an entrepreneurial opportunity. His name is Matthias, and he is a Belgian chocolatier. And he realized once he graduated from his chocolatier program that there were lots and lots of chocolate shops in Belgium, and so it would be very difficult for him to compete on his own. So he decided that he was going to go somewhere and make and sell chocolate someplace else where there wasn't as much competition. If you don't live in Belgium, or if you haven't been to Belgium, there's a reason why they call it Belgian chocolate. The Belgians love chocolate and they eat a lot of it. So the market is saturated. And so Matthias decided that he would go to China and open a chocolate shop there. And what he found when he opened his chocolate shop in China was that the Chinese palate was much different than the Belgian palate. And so they don't eat sweets in the same way that the Belgians do. They don't have the same taste for sweet, so to speak. And so he modified his recipes. Rather than sweetening it with sugar, he started to sweeten with fruit. And so he successfully sold this fruit-sweetened chocolate in a shop in China. After a couple of years, Matthias got homesick, so he decided to move back to Belgium, Brussels specifically. Brussels is one of the most prolific diplomatic communities in the world. It is the capital of the European Union, so there's lots and lots of people from lots of countries that live and work in Belgium. And so Matthias decided that he would open his chocolate shop with his fruit-sweetened chocolates, targeting diplomats who are from countries that, like China, that aren't interested in the super sweet, the overly sweet Belgian chocolate. So this photo was taken a couple of years ago in his very successful chocolate shop in the diplomatic quarter of Brussels, Belgium. One of my favorite articles about entrepreneurship is an article that was run in the Wall Street Journal several years ago. It used to be an assigned reading for this course, but I could no longer get access to it. So I'm just going to summarize it here for you guys. And it's called So You Want to Be an Entrepreneur. And what I like about it is that it asks you as a potential entrepreneur to ask yourself a series of questions and to think really hard about the answer to those questions to determine if you have what it takes to be an entrepreneur. First question, are you willing and ready to bear financial risk? There's a saying in business that you have to spend money to make money, and that's true. But I'm going to teach you that you don't have to spend a lot. Are you ready to sacrifice your lifestyle? It could be a few weeks. It could be a few months or it could be a few years of skipping time with friends in order to grow your entrepreneurial endeavor. Is your family on board? Are they just as committed to your business, to you and your business concept? Do you like all aspects of running a business? Are you comfortable making decisions on the fly with no playbook? Are you good thinking on your feet? What's your track record of following through on your ideas? How persuasive and well-spoken are you? Do you have a concept you're truly passionate about? Because you're going to have to live with it. Are you somebody who is a self-motivated? And do you have a partner who's willing to go through this with you? That last one is not as important, and sometimes no partner may be better, but a lot of business media encourages the idea of having a partner to start your business with. If the answers to all of those questions are positive and lead you to think this might be for me, then you might have some of the common personality traits of entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs typically tend to be tenacious. They're committed and they go after things. They're passionate about their ideas. If they're okay with the unknown, then they have a high tolerance for ambiguity. They can see what an ideal future is and they know how to create an action plan to work toward that future. They're confident. They believe in themselves. They are flexible. When something doesn't quite go the way things were planned, they can adapt very easily. And they're willing to break the rules when necessary, within reason and within the law. So you're wondering right now, maybe this is something that's right for me. Well, there are some distinct benefits of entrepreneurship. First is the potential for profit and generating your own wealth, the ability to create your own enterprise, independence. You're no longer working for someone else, and with that independence comes freedom. You can choose when to work and how to work, and there's generally great satisfaction in doing your job the way that you want to do it, and you feel more fulfilled as an individual. You have the opportunity to create opportunities for others, whether they be employees, community members, customers, suppliers, etc. With the benefits come potential drawbacks. There is most certainly an uncertainty of income. You don't know from one year to the next what your income will be. Every entrepreneurial venture bears risk. Many fail. You will work long hours. So in that time, you will have a lower quality of life because you'll be tied to your business. There is generally stress associated with the responsibilities of running a business, and that stress comes from responsibilities. And you may get discouraged from time to time. But as Eleanor Roosevelt said, you really should do one thing every day that scares you, as long as it's within reason. And you should know that failure happens. It's important that I tell you some of the most successful business people out there are people who have failed. For example, there is the gentleman who was fired from the Kansas City Star because his boss said that he, quote, lacked imagination and had no good ideas. That gentleman was Walt Disney. Before Mickey Mouse, lacked imagination and had no ideas. And yet he gave us the single most valuable entertainment company on the planet. I'm going to change it up now with a little discussion of competitive advantages of entrepreneurial firms. The competitive advantage is the edge that a company has over its competitors, and it's usually based around cost or differentiation. So you may provide a product at a lower cost to your customers, like, say, Walmart, or you may offer more quality through something like unique partnerships focused on design, like Target. Or you may offer better service value than your competitors. These are all examples of competitive advantage. And your competitive advantage is something that is replicable, that you can repeat and your customers can articulate. So it's the edge that a firm has over its competitors, usually around cost, differentiation, and it is replicable. One of the competitive advantages of small entrepreneurial firms is that there is a customer focus. Because the entrepreneur is much closer to the customer than the CEO of a large company. There's a better relationship between the company and the customer, again, because the small business owner is so close and so intimately involved in the business. They have the ability to assess and repair issues with quality quickly. Small businesses are better able to control their reputation when it comes to being responsive to customers. And small businesses, like I mentioned earlier regarding patents, have a reputation for innovation. And small businesses have the opportunity or have the ability to occupy special niches. They can make products for a few people. They can make highly specialized products. And so by fulfilling that niche, it makes them harder to compete against. A niche is simply the place in the market, the specific need that the product or service provides. So for example, I'm taking Tylenol right now for headaches because I can't take ibuprofen. And Tylenol is, the niche that Tylenol occupies is that it is a pain reliever for people who can't take aspirin or ibuprofen. And so my student who opened a gym for people who want to get fit by doing an obstacle course rather than sitting on a spin bike or doing CrossFit or doing some other kind of high intensity training. That's his niche. So with that, I'm going to leave you with a couple of quotes. Here's one from Steve Jobs, the late founder of Apple. He said, "Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary." Casey Musgraves, singer. Follow your arrow wherever it points. And with that, that is the end of Lecture 1.